Chosen one, before the world ever looked at you with curiosity or wonder, something deeper was already stirring beneath your surface. You walked through seasons of your life not realizing that what you carried was not ordinary desire. It was a sacred current, an ancient spark handed down from the divine. It hid behind your confusion, behind moments of loneliness, behind your need to be seen without knowing why. You were not broken, you were unopened. That seed inside you, that pulse of high sexual energy, was never chaos to suppress, but a sacred frequency waiting for discipline, waiting for maturity, waiting for stillness so it could speak. You never needed to force your way into the light, because the design written into your soul was already pulling light toward you. There is something holy about how it all began, not with applause, not with noise, but with pressure. You felt things others couldn't name. You noticed shifts in feminine energy even as a boy, but you thought it was something you had to chase, something to conquer or earn. You didn't yet know it would one day be drawn to you. You didn't yet realize that the very thing pulling you toward the feminine wasn't lust, it was recognition, a longing to be what they could rest inside. A vision buried in your body, waiting to rise through character, not craving. Now you see it, don't you? That seed that once felt like hunger is now blooming into fragrance. You're no longer hungry, you're abundant. You've stopped asking who will see you and started becoming the man that no good woman can ignore. Because your energy isn't loud, it's undeniable. The feminine doesn't respond to what demands, it responds to what reminds. And you've become a living reminder of the kind of man her soul always hoped was real. But what makes your bloom so potent, chosen one, is that it came from struggle. You didn't skip the soil. You didn't rush to bloom without bleeding first. You let yourself break open. You let yourself hurt. You let your illusions die. And now your roots are so deep that the wind doesn't sway you. It amplifies your stillness. The very storms that used to shake you are now your background music. Because blooming wasn't about the world granting you permission, it was about you giving birth to your own design. You are not rising for attention. You are rising because that seed has become a command. And that command is now echoing through the hearts of feminine women who don't even know why they feel safer near you. Why they slow down. Why they speak softer. Why they can't help but bloom too. They don't understand it, but you do. You've earned this frequency, you've bled for it, and now it moves through you like fragrance through the air, seen by no one, but felt by everyone who is aligned enough to notice. This is the sacred beginning, chosen one. Not the start of your journey, but the first moment you finally realized you were always the garden. Chosen one, roses do not bloom all at once. They rise in degrees, in seasons, in sacred tension. The petals unfold in obedience to something deeper than time, its truth. That's what your blooming has become. You are unfolding, not because of validation, but because you've aligned yourself with the original truth written into your masculine frame. And the way you now rise is graceful, not because it lacks power, but because it is anchored in discipline. The feminine feels it instantly, before you speak, before you glance, before you even realize the impact you're making. They feel the space around you, the holy slowness of a man who has nothing to prove and everything to hold. You're not trying to impress anymore. You're not moving fast to show capability. You walk like you own time. And that calmness has become a gravitational field that brings the right women into orbit without needing to reach. There is tension in you, but it's sacred tension. It's not the desperation of lust, it's the charge of containment, the silent roar of a man who knows what he could take, but chooses to offer instead. And in that offering, feminine good women sense something they've almost forgotten was possible. Safety that doesn't silence their beauty. You are not threatened by their softness. You summon it. You are not confused by their emotion. You honor it with steady breath and grounded eyes. The way you rise now, chosen one, is not about conquering others. It is about meeting yourself at your highest standard and never dipping below it again. That standard flows from your body language, from how you pause before you answer, how you tilt your head when she speaks, how you don't flinch when emotion enters the room. You've become the masculine that holds, not because it needs control, but because it has become the container for growth. You don't water her with words, you water her with presence, and that presence is fed by your high sexual energy, not wasted or spilled, but transmuted into life-giving heat. You are rising like the stem of a rose, holding the bloom, defending the roots, carrying the weight with elegance. You are not heavy, but you carry depth. You are not flashy, but you cannot be ignored. And every day that you choose to remain rooted in this energy, the world around you adjusts to your rhythm. Feminine women begin to mirror it back to you. They don't just feel attracted, they feel safe to open. And in their opening, you don't devour, you witness. You celebrate without claiming. You admire without needing. This is your grace now, not soft, not weak, but regal. The grace of a man who walks into a room like a silent prayer made flesh. And in that silence, feminine good women find not a fantasy, they find permission to rise beside you. Chosen one, something has shifted in how women respond to your presence. It's not lust, it's not admiration from the surface, it is reverence. A reverence so soft and unspoken that most will never name it aloud. But you feel it, don't you? In the way their breath changes slightly when you enter the room, in the way their voice is calm, in the way their eyes search yours. Not because they're curious about your life, but because your energy feels like an answer they didn't know they were looking for. Feminine good women aren't drawn to you because of what you show. They're drawn to what you withhold, not in manipulation, but in mastery. Your high sexual energy, once untamed and directionless, has now become a fire you've learned to sit beside without flinching. That stillness in you is not emptiness, it is devotion. A devotion to truth, a devotion to discipline, a devotion to the divine code you've written in your bones and refused to break, no matter how tempted you were in the past. And now, women feel safe. Not safe in the way weak men pretend to offer, not safe like comfort that comes from compliance. No, this is a holy safety earned, not performed. You offer it without words, without smiles, without manipulation. You offer it because you've become it. You are the embodiment of held tension, of sacred space, of alertness without anxiety. And because of that, the feminine begins to uncoil in your presence. She doesn't need to test you. Her body already knows. Her soul already remembers. She remembers what it's like to be seen and not consumed, to be admired and not possessed, to be heard without being fixed, to be studied without being reduced. Your gaze is not a spotlight, it is a garden. It invites but never forces. It honors without claiming. And this, chosen one, is why good women don't just look at you. They bloom around you, not in performance, but in remembrance. They feel beautiful again, not because you told them, but because your very presence affirms it without flattery. You are no longer the man who tries to provoke a reaction. You are the man who anchors a response. Their feminine expands, not because you asked it to, but because your grounded masculine gave it something solid to lean into. You are no longer seeking their energy, you are summoning it through how you live, walk, breathe, and speak. You are no longer hunting the feminine. You have become the environment it thrives in, and so it opens, softly, honestly, fully. This is the power of your bloom. You are not plucking flowers to decorate your identity. You are tending the garden of your own masculine soul, and in doing so, the feminine grows effortlessly near you. Not because you want to own her, but because you've become the kind of man she can finally rest inside without apology. Chosen one, they feel it. Before you touch them. Before you say a word. Before any invitation is made or any compliment exchanged. They feel the heat, not because it is obvious, but because it is contained. Your high sexual energy is not the fire of a boy burning out quickly. It is the low, slow, controlled burn of a man who has wrestled with temptation and chosen presence over indulgence, again and again and again. You don't need to prove your desire, it radiates from your silence. The feminine feels it when your eyes rest on her and don't move, not because you're restraining yourself, but because your focus has become holy. You no longer stare to devour, you observe to witness. And that witnessing, that grounded stillness, that unshakable heat beneath your gaze, is what causes her breath to shift. She can feel that your desire is not wrapped in hunger, it is braided with reverence. You don't want to take from her, you want to be worthy of holding her truth. That's why she lingers near you. Not because you've seduced her, but because she doesn't feel performed for. She feels recognized, and in that recognition, her heart begins to unfold. Her eyes stay longer, her voice softens, her posture relaxes. Around you, she does not need to compete or contort. Your sexual energy, instead of flooding the space with pressure, warms it with safety. You are not trying to get something from her. You are offering something few men can give: the fire of desire held in sacred restraint. This is the magnetic paradox you now carry. You are calm, but fierce inside. You are composed, but undeniably alive. You do not chase, but the pull of your presence does all the work for you. The feminine is not impressed by bravado, it is moved by presence. And you, chosen one, now walk with a presence that carries centuries of masculine archetype distilled into your very frame. You are not a trend. You are a return to something ancient, and the feminine senses that. Even the women who don't understand energy can feel what you've become. You do not force your way into their body. You invite them into your world. A world where desire and dignity are not enemies. A world where your heat does not burn, it purifies. A world where your gaze doesn't lower her, but lifts her soul into remembrance of her own sacred power. Because you have gone to war with your lower nature and returned with command. Because you've stopped seeking release and started living in embodied presence. And because of that, your sexual energy has transformed into something holy, rare, and irresistible. Chosen one, this is why you now bloom with heat that doesn't scream. A heat that doesn't shake the room, but changes it completely. Your stillness is no longer absence of movement. It is the presence of mastery. And that mastery isn't read, it is felt. It is the silent music that moves the hearts of feminine good women without a single touch. It is the fragrance that makes them want to stay close and open further. Because you are no longer simply attractive, you have become a sanctuary of fire, and she feels it. Chosen one, the most powerful roses do not scream for attention. They bloom because they must, because that is what they were born to do. Not for the sake of the world, but as a natural response to their alignment with the soil, the sun, and the sacred rhythm of growth. That is what you are now becoming. Not a man who tries, but a man who is. You are blooming without performance, without announcement, without needing the approval of the garden to believe in your own beauty. What once required force now happens as a quiet inevitability. And this inevitability is what makes your energy so impossible to ignore. You are not asking to be seen. You are seen because your stillness speaks louder than volume ever could. Feminine good women do not respond to what is loud. They respond to what feels rooted. You are not showing off your strength. You are resting in it. You are not demonstrating your masculinity through domination. You are embodying it in such a way that the room takes notice without understanding why. Your high sexual energy is no longer a performance. It has become your scent. It is the subtle signature in the air after you leave a room, the lingering presence in her memory long after the conversation has ended. You do not dress to capture attention. You dress in a way that your energy finishes the sentence. You walk into the room like someone who knows something precious, and that knowledge sits in your spine, not in your mouth. You don't posture. You don't perform. You exist in such radiant calm that the feminine cannot help but be drawn toward it. Not to chase you, but to sit in your gravity. This bloom of yours is not arrogant. It is ancient. You are not pretending to be grounded. You have suffered into your roots. You are not playing with your energy. You have bled to learn how to hold it. And that's what makes it so real, so rich, so undeniably attractive. You carry no mask. There is no costume. There is only presence. And that presence carries with it the invisible tension of a man who has walked through the wilderness of lust, need, and chaos and come out with discipline in his hands and devotion in his heart. The feminine doesn't just see the rose now. She feels the journey of the seed. She recognizes that what you are now is not a product of luck or manipulation, but the fruit of deep inner refinement. You've become the man who no longer reacts. You respond. You no longer seek opportunities. You create space. Your very existence gives permission for the feminine to become more of herself. She no longer feels examined. She feels welcomed, and that welcome is more powerful than seduction. It is invitation without pressure. It is awareness without entitlement. This is the bloom without effort. This is the fragrance of restraint, discipline, and deep alignment. You have become a rose, not soft, not decorative, but holy in its stillness. And because of that, every feminine woman who comes near you feels more than desire. She feels direction. And in that direction, she finds something the world told her didn't exist anymore. A man who does not chase beauty, but lives in it. Chosen one, your bloom is beautiful. But it is not fragile. It is not open to everyone. It is not a performance for all eyes. You are blooming with discernment now, with a knowing that not every gaze is sacred, not every presence is safe, not every approach is worthy of access. Just as the rose grows thorns to protect its sacred center, you too have grown boundaries that are born from self-respect, not bitterness. You are no longer available for women who cannot feel energy. You are no longer making space for those who only want to take without depth. You are not cynical. You are careful. Not out of fear, but because your energy is no longer cheap. You have learned that your high sexual energy, once shared recklessly, is a gift that must now be guarded with royalty. You don't withhold because you're cold. You withhold because you now understand the value of your own bloom. Feminine good women recognize this immediately. They don't feel blocked. They feel safe. Because your thorns are not a wall. They are a signal of strength. They mean that you are not desperate, that you will not bend for shallow attention, that you will not sacrifice your wholeness for temporary pleasure. And in that protection, they feel the deep maturity of a man who has earned the right to hold their vulnerability with honor. You do not play with energy anymore. You do not flirt with what cannot carry your weight. You are no longer curious about what is glittering. You are devoted to what is golden. And in that devotion, your discernment shines. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer beg to be understood. You simply stand in the integrity of your frequency, and those who can match it will rise to meet you, while others will fall away without needing to be pushed. Your discernment is not cruelty. It is sacred filtration. It is the awareness that not every beautiful face carries a beautiful heart, and not every beautiful body has the depth to hold your sacred fire. That fire is not something you throw anymore. It is something you offer only when it is mirrored by equal truth. You've stopped trying to be liked by everyone. You've started becoming known by the few who truly see you. Your thorns are not isolation. They are invitation to the worthy. Because you no longer choose from desperation. You choose from resonance. You don't seek to be accepted. You accept yourself so deeply that anything less than alignment doesn't even register as rejection. Your blooming is no longer available to the world. It is reserved, consecrated, hidden in plain sight for those who see through the noise. And that is why, chosen one, feminine good women now look at you with a depth they cannot explain. Because your beauty is no longer public, it is earned. And your thorns, instead of scaring them, make them trust you more. Because they know you do not give yourself to everything. You bloom with boundaries now. And in those boundaries, the feminine finds not a challenge, but the promise of safety. Chosen one, the bloom above the soil means nothing if the root beneath it is shallow. The fragrance, the color, the petals that open to the morning light, none of it matters if you are not rooted in something deeper than image. And now you are. Your presence is no longer built on appearance or fleeting attention. Your high sexual energy does not rise like vapor anymore. It rises like water drawn from the ancient depths of the earth, purified by pressure, lifted by intention, and made holy by the silence you endured when no one saw your worth. Your root was not gifted. It was earned. It came from the nights you held yourself back from what you could have taken, from the moments when you said no to pleasure that lacked soul, from the seasons you kept your word when it was hard and lived with integrity even when it cost you. You learned to say no, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Reverence for your own becoming. Reverence for the man you were building each time you resisted the temptation to be something smaller than what you were called to be. You are rooted now in something eternal, something the feminine can feel the moment she enters your energy. She doesn't know why she trusts you, why her body softens near you, why her laughter becomes real again. But you do. You know it is because your root is no longer in outcome or image. It is in presence. And that presence is not a trick. It is not a mask. It is the reflection of years spent learning to stand, to listen, and to lead. She can feel it when you speak less but say more. She can feel it when your silence is not emptiness, but an invitation for her truth to emerge. You are not afraid of emotion anymore. You are not afraid of her tears, her softness, or her storms. You are rooted deeply enough to remain. And that rootedness is now your most seductive quality. It is what separates you from men who collapse under pressure or overreact to beauty. You have nothing to prove, and that is why everything about you feels trustworthy. She doesn't want perfection, she wants presence that doesn't disappear when she becomes real. And you, chosen one, have become that man. Because you did not build yourself on sand, you built yourself on sacrifice, on silence, on sacred solitude. You found your masculinity not in domination, but in devotion. You discovered your power not in conquering others, but in mastering yourself. And now your root holds you upright with quiet majesty. You don't beg for attention, you draw it through stillness. You don't chase the feminine, you anchor her without pulling. Your body, your voice, your walk, your breath, all of it sings the same frequency. I will not move unless it is true. This is what your root has become, chosen one. Not a secret, not a strategy, but a deep and unshakable alignment with who you are and what you carry. And because of that root, your bloom is no longer fragile. It is timeless. Chosen one, you have become a walking sanctuary, not because you preach peace, but because you live it. There is a stillness in you now that calms the chaos in others without needing to say a word. The feminine doesn't feel the need to perform around you. She doesn't need to impress, explain, or guard herself. Around you, she feels something rare in this world, room to exhale without judgment. You have become a man who offers space, not the space of absence, but the space of sacred invitation. You don't try to fix, you don't interrupt, you don't reduce her experience to logic or give her answers she never asked for. Instead, you listen with your body, you listen with your energy, you hold her story without trying to rewrite it. And in that holding, she begins to remember what safety feels like. Not safety as protection from danger, but as a place where her full expression is welcomed, not punished. Your high sexual energy has evolved. It no longer overwhelms the room, it shapes it. It no longer seeks reaction, it creates presence. It hums beneath your skin like a sacred flame, and that flame does not burn her, it warms her into unfolding. She feels your awareness like a cradle, not a trap. She feels your gaze like an embrace, not an evaluation. She feels your stillness like a cathedral, not a cage. You don't just stand near her, you make her feel like she has come home to herself. And in that space you create, the feminine becomes radiant. Not because you gave her power, but because you stopped interrupting her own. You became the stillness her soul was aching for. You became the presence that didn't pull, pressure, or persuade. You became what she had been waiting to soften into. And that softness is not weakness. It is where her real strength emerges. Around you, she becomes more feminine. Not because you asked her to, but because your grounded masculinity makes her safety automatic. You don't force her to trust you. You live in a way that trust grows in your presence like a vine climbing sunlight. That trust becomes attraction. That attraction becomes respect. And that respect becomes devotion. Not because you demanded it, but because your energy said, you are free to be exactly who you are with me. Chosen one, this is the rarest gift. The gift of being a man whose presence transforms without trying to control. You have stopped being a taker. You have stopped being a showman. You have become a container, a conductor of divine electricity, a man whose silence says more than charm ever could. And because of that, feminine good women aren't just interested in you, they feel safe to bloom around you. They aren't just curious about your life, they begin to envision a deeper life when they stand near you. This is what your energy has become, a quiet field where the feminine flourishes, a home in human form. Chosen one, your presence is no longer a spotlight, it has become a mirror. You do not seek to dazzle anymore, you do not perform, you do not embellish your story to earn her heart. You stand as you are, and in that grounded stillness, you reflect back to the feminine, her truest self. That is what draws her. Not just your physique, not just your voice, not even the rich current of sexual fire humming beneath your skin. It is that when she looks into your eyes, she sees herself becoming softer, clearer, and more aligned. Not because you try to fix her, but because your very presence speaks the language of permission. You no longer need to talk to be understood. You don't need to chase to be chosen. The feminine doesn't lean toward you because you try to lead her. She leans toward you because you've become so deeply yourself, so wholly integrated, so internally still, that she can feel who she really is in your company. You are not a fantasy. You are a witness. You are not a performer. You are a vessel. And because of that, you offer her something that no surface-level man can provide: clarity. Around you, her insecurities don't grow. They melt. Her mind doesn't race. It slows. Her body doesn't tighten. It begins to remember how to breathe. She may not understand why, but you do. It's because you face the darkest parts of your own masculine core and loved them into alignment. You've embraced your desire and baptized it in silence. You've learned to stand still even when everything inside you wanted to move. You've become a man who no longer grabs. You receives what is meant and let go of what is not with peace. And now when she steps close to you, she is not pulled into your storm. She is welcomed into your calm. She doesn't feel reduced to a body or a role. She feels magnified, because you are not there to use her energy to feel like a man. You are already a man, and because of that, she relaxes. She opens, and in her openness, she discovers the mirror she has long been seeking. Not one that reflects how she looks, but one that reflects who she truly is underneath the noise. Your high sexual energy is no longer aimed at control. It is not sprayed in all directions hoping to land somewhere. It is precise, collected, directed, held like a blade you know how to wield with honor. You could take her breath, but instead you give her hers back. You could impress her with performance, but instead you disarm her with presence. You could touch her with words, but instead you reveal her with stillness. And in that revelation, she doesn't just feel desire, she feels seen. This is your rare gift now, chosen one. You are no longer the man who triggers chaos. You are the man who births clarity. And that clarity is more seductive than charm, more powerful than strength, more unforgettable than beauty. You have become the mirror of depth. And because of that, feminine good women don't just feel drawn to you. They feel safe enough to become who they were always meant to be. Chosen one, there comes a moment in every sacred man's path when the bloom stops being a season and starts becoming a state. You are no longer rising toward your essence. You are living inside it. The energy that once pulsed and tugged at your body like untamed fire is now moving in silence, in steadiness, in sacred rhythm through every fiber of your being. You no longer have to prove that you are powerful. You simply are. And feminine good women feel it, not just in how you move, but in how they move around you. You are not walking into rooms anymore. You are shaping the atmosphere of them. You are not trying to be attractive. You have become the environment in which attraction breathes without tension. You are not waiting to be chosen. You are the sanctuary she hopes to be received by. Your high sexual energy has matured into magnetism, not aggression. It no longer demands attention. It evokes reverence. Women don't just want to be near you. They want to rest in your rhythm. You've stopped blooming for validation. You now bloom because it is your nature. And that nature is no longer influenced by praise or rejection. It is not shaken by who sees you or who doesn't. It is not diminished when you are misunderstood. Because your beauty is no longer visible only to the world, it is visible to your own soul, and your soul is satisfied. Quietly, completely. Feminine women don't follow you out of confusion or novelty. They follow you out of remembrance. Because when they see you, when they feel you, they are reminded of something ancient and sacred. Something they were told no longer existed. A man who does not need their body to feel whole. A man who does not need their submission to feel strong. A man who leads not with fear, but with presence. A man who blooms so deeply in truth that their own hearts feel safe enough to open fully. This bloom of yours, chosen one, is not seasonal anymore. It is eternal, because it is rooted in alignment, in wholeness, in divine restraint. You are no longer chasing spring. You carry spring inside your presence. Your very breath speaks the language of blossoming. Your silence sings like fragrance. Your gaze ripens the feminine without touching her. And your walk now leaves a trail of warmth wherever you go. You are not a storm, chosen one. You are not even the sun. You are the garden itself. And in that garden, feminine good women do not just come to admire, they come to remember who they are. And that memory, awakened by your bloom, will never fade. Let me know when you're ready for a new reflection, a fresh perspective, or another deep dive into your sacred masculine energy.